Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In today's class, we will talk about Ismul Zarf, and then we'll also talk about Zarf. With respect to derived nouns or Asma Mushtaqqa, we have so far discussed Ismul Fa'il. This is the active participle. So, for example, we've said that Sharaka Yashriku. Or let's take a very simple example. If we say Nasara Yansuru, the Ismul Fa'il will have the form Fa'il. So Nasara Yansuru, the doer of the action of helping, is Nasir. So this has the pattern Fa'il. The person who is being helped, the Ismul Maf'ul would have the pattern Maf'ul. So the person being helped would be Mansurun. This is for Salati Mujarrad. For Mazid Fi, the rule is that we create the fail Mudare, and the Mudare indicator is replaced by Mim Dhamma, and with Ismul Fa'il, the Ain letter will have a Kasra, whereas Ismul Maf'ul, the Ain letter will have a Fatha. So, an example, the one who selects will be called Muntakhib, and the one who is selected would be called Muntakhab. So, that is for Mazid Fi. Today, we are going to focus on Ismul Zarf. So literally the word Zarf means a container, but when we talk about Ismul Zarf is a noun which has to do with the place of an action. So in that sense, this is a location or the time of action, or sometimes both. So for example, the word Maghrib. So if we take this word, is this a time or is it a place or is it both? So it's
Time.
both, right? Because Maghrib
Both.
refers to the time, and Maghrib is also a place. It's like the west. So sometimes you will have Ismul Zarf referring to the place of an action, sometimes to the time of an action, and sometimes it could be either, and then from context you would have to figure out whether the word is referring to a time or a place. All right. Now, as before, the way we create Ismul Zarf is slightly different depending on whether we are dealing with Salati Mujarrad or Mazid Fi. We'll first start with Salati Mujarrad. With Salati Mujarrad, the form of the Ismul Zarf would either be Maf'alun or Maf'ilun. So notice that with Ismul Fa'il and Maf'ul, we started with Mim Dhamma. So this would be for Ismul Fa'il and Ismul Maf'ul. But for Ismul Zarf, we start with a Mim with a Fatha. And then sometimes the Ain letter has a Fatha. Sometimes the Ain letter has a Kasra. So very often you will see words like Maghribun. So this follows the form Maf'ilun, Mashrikun, Masjidun. So notice these are all either places where an action happens or it's a time when a certain action happens. So just remember Maf'alun and Maf'ilun. These are the two patterns when we are talking about Salati Mujarrad. So when do we have Maf'alun and when do we have Maf'ilun? The general rule of thumb, and with any rule of thumb we are going to have exceptions, so keep that in mind, but roughly speaking, for Bab, Fataha, Nasara, Samia and Karuma, generally but not always, we have Fatha, so Maf alun. And for bab daruba and hasiba, so bab daraba and hasiba, we have maf'ilun, so kasra. Now, can somebody tell me what's the pattern here? So this category A and category B, just think about it. I want you to do a small exercise here. So I want you to write down all these top 4 babs and bottom 4 babs, and then tell me what is it that's common about category A, and then what is it that's common about category B.
Can I answer?
Okay. Do you have an? So you obviously have an answer.
Yeah.
I want to see if 2-3 people have an answer. Don't give me the answer. I just want to see how many people can, how many people think they have an answer. Because once you can recognize that category, life becomes easier. And if you don't have an answer, then actually I want to help you out. I suspect Shahrukh has the right answer, but I just want everybody else to think about it. So let me just check. So Dr. Ghani, Bab, this Fa, what's what's the long way of saying it? Bab? Exactly. So Fataha, and then
Yaftahu.
Yaftahu. Okay, what about the next one?
Nasara yansuru.
Yansuru. So Yansuru. And then the next one?
Samia yasma'u.
Samia yas. So this would be yasma'u, and then the kaf means?
Karuma yakrumu.
Yakrumu. Okay. So yakrumu. Okay, now what about these two? Daraba?
Yadribu.
Yadribu. And hasaba?
Yahsibu.
Hasiba yahsibu. Hasaba yahsibu.
Yasibu.
Right?
Oh, sorry. Hasiba yasibu and daraba yadribu. Yeah. So now can you tell me what is it that's common about category B? That
so the Fe'le Mudare always has a
exactly. So in category B, you notice that Fe'le Mudare has a kasra, whereas in category A, the middle letter, the ain letter, does not have a kasra. It either has a fatha. So these are all 3 with the fatha, and this is the dhamma. So roughly speaking, for Bab, Dariba, and these Bab, Hasiba, Yahsibu, the maf'ilun is used. But there are exceptions. So here are some exceptions. So gharaba, yaghribu, actually it's yaghrabu or yaghrubu. The place where the sun sets or the westward direction is maghribun. Sharaka yashruqu, theoretically it should have been maf'alun, but it's actually mashriqun. Sajada yasjudu, it should have been masjadun, but the Arabs decided that did not sound good, so they made it masjidun. So the key point though is that with Thalathi Mujarrad, the place or time will always have a mim fatha in the beginning, and the ain letter will either have a kasra or a fatha. Either you can remember these rules of thumb and then remember the exceptions, or you can just remember each word, that it's maghribun, not maghrabun, it's mashriqun, it's masjidun. So just try and remember that. A side note, when we started these Arabic grammar classes, one of the things we talked about is whether we are looking at a noun or a verb or a harf. And hopefully you realized over time that there are many indicators of a noun. Like one indicator is if you have al, another indicator is if you have a tanween, un, an, in. Now, I hope you are realizing that if you have this thing called the meme zaida means the additional meme. So when you have a meme that is in addition to the root letters, then chances are that you are looking at a noun, because all the nouns that are created from verbs, at least all the nouns that we've discussed so far, have a meme in the beginning. If it's ismul fa'il or ismul maf'ul, we have meme dhamma. If we have ismul zarf, then we have meme fatha. So when you see this meme in the beginning, and you also see the 3 root letters after that, most likely you are looking at a noun. All right. Okay. Another comment about the pattern. If an action happens frequently at some place, then the pattern is maf'alatun. For example, a place where studies happen frequently, or at least should happen frequently. So darasa is your lesson or your studies. So a place where this happens frequently would take these root letters and put it in the pattern maf'alatun. So where studies happen frequently, that's madrasatun. Taba'a has to do with printing. So the printing press, the place where printing happens frequently, that's matba'atun. Maktabatun, sometimes this could be office or library. So there again, the action happens frequently. So that's maktabatun. And when you want to take this pattern, so madrasatun, maktabatun, and create the plural, then the pattern is jama mukassar. Jama mukassar means a broken plural, so it doesn't have your the non-broken or the jama salim. The standard plural would be muslimun, muslimun. So muslimun, muslimin, that is your jama salim, which means that it's your regular jama. But when you don't have jama salim, then it's called jama mukassar. So what is the plural of madrasatun? Shahrukh?
Madarisun.
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 So madarisun. So what pattern do we have there? Mafa'ilu or mafa'ilun, madarisu. Okay, what about maktabatun?
Makatibu.
Yeah, makatibu. Right, so the plural takes the form mafa'ilu or mafa'ilun. All right, next. How do we create ismul zarf for mazid fi? This is grammatically simple, but when you are actually studying Arabic text, it can get tricky. I say it's grammatically simple because the ismul maf'ul, the way we grammatically created the ismul maf'ul. So who will tell us? Aziz Saab, do you remember how we create the ismul maf'ul for mazid fi? What do we do in the beginning? Or somebody else then? Manzoor Saab, yeah, okay, Shahrukh, you go ahead. How do we create the maf'ul?
So basically we remove the first letter and add meme pesh.
Exactly.
Just like we do for a file.
Exactly.
And then we put a fatha on the end letter instead of...
Okay, so somebody who is being tested would be mumtahan.
Tahan. Yeah.
Now, ismul zarf is created the exact same way. So then the question becomes, how do we know? So mumtahan could be the person or the entity who's being tested or examined. It could be the place of the exam. It could be the time of exam. So we have to look at the context and figure out whether mumtahan is referring to the person being tested or the place of the test or the time of the test. So grammatically easy, but when you're actually reading the text, you need to understand from context. And when we create the plural of this sort of ismul zarf, we use jama muannas salim. What does this mean? Jama muannas salim is the standard female plural. So what is the plural of muslimatun?
Muslimatin or muslimatun.
Yeah, muslimatun, muslimatin. So the standard is in rafa form. So the point is that when this pattern, if you want to make the plural of this, the plural will be mumtahanatun. If we have munharafun, the plural would be munharafatun, muhasabun. This is the place where accountability is done. If you want the plural would be muhasabatun. So just like muslimatun, that's how the plural is created here. Okay, there is something unusual about bab in fi'al. This is a non-transitive verb. What that means is this verb does not take an object. Since it doesn't take an object, there isn't really an ismul maf'ul. But when we use the ismul maf'ul pattern, so in harafa means to turn. So if I use the ismul maf'ul pattern and I say munharafun, so notice there's the meme added with the dhamma, and then the ain letter, which is the ra, which is actually a munharafun. The ain letter is the ra. Put a fatha on that. Is the noon part of the root letters or not here?
No.
No, it's not part
It's
of the.
not. It's actually the mazid fi. So what are the root letters
Right.
over here within harafa? What are the root letters?
Harafa.
Harafa.
Harafa. Yeah, harafa. So in harafa, the alif and the noon are the mazid fi. So munharafun would be the place where we turn, or it could also mean the time of turning. So notice the pattern is the same as the maf'ul, ismul maf'ul, but the meaning will not have the ismul maf'ul meaning. The meaning will have either the place where we turn or the time where we turn. Zarf words have the concept of time or place but no action, whereas Ismul Zarf have either time or place or both, and there is some action involved. Whereas with Zarf, there is no action involved. It's either a time or a place. So that is the fundamental difference between Zarf and Ismul Zarf. So over here we have some examples of zarf. Inda, which means close, laylatun, night, this is a time, shahar, this is a month, yaum, khalfa, behind, amama. And then here are some more examples. So these are all classic zarf words. A question came up as to whether a zarf is considered an ism or not. Zarf is an ism. The key fact about a harf is that a harf does not change its form. So if I say min, min will always be min. So we don't have a rafa nasab jar. Whereas a harf does have a rafa nasab and jar. Mostly a zarf is used as a mudaf. So we have mudaf and mudaf ilayhi in an izafa construction. Generally the zarf is used as a mudaf, and generally it is in the nasab state. If the zarf comes after a harf jar, then it will be in a jar state, and occasionally it is possible also, depending on the context, for a zarf to be for one of these words. Like for example, you can have yawmun in the rafa state. So earlier I said it cannot be in the rafa state, but in some situations the words that I've shown like shahrun, yawmun, they do appear in the rafa state. But the major takeaways are that when you have these zarf words like fauka, tahta, amama, they have a sense of either location or they have a sense of time, but they do not have any action associated with them. That is the most important point. And the second most important point is that mostly these zarf words, which are nouns, are used as a muzaf. And automatically, when you know that a zarf is used in a muzaf and muzaf ilayh will always be nouns. You cannot have a verb that's part of a muzaf ilayh. You also can't have a harf that is part of a muzaf or muzaf ilayh. So those are the major points. We are going to have two sets of ayat. In one set, we are going to focus on Ismul Zarf, and then on the next set, we will focus on Zarf. All right, so I want a lot of this now you can do. So, Aziz Saab, can you start us off here? So the first one, قَدْ alima kullu unasin mashrabahum. So, do you see any Ismul Zarf here?
قد مشربهم قد
So who's so Manzoor Saab is talking. Is Aziz Saab quiet today?
قد قد
No, Qad is not the Qad is definitely. Alima knew kullu unasin. So all the people. This is mudaf ilayh. So what's the word left? What is their Ismul Zarf?
Mashrabahum.
Mashrabahum. How do you know?
Mashraba, basically. Mashraba, because of the memes of
Mim Zabar. And
Yeah.
then the Ain letter is the Ra.
Ra, which is Fatah. So,
What is the verb? What is the
Sharaba.
word?
Sharaba, Sharaba.
Exactly.
Sharaba.
Sharaba Yashribu.
Ashribu.
So what do you think? So Yashri. What do you think Mashraba means?
Place of drinking.
Exactly.
Place of drinking.
Place of drinking. And whom?
Place of their drinking.
Exactly. So their place of drinking.
Is this an exception to the rule?
What is the rule?
Mashrib,
Yeah,
it should be mashrib,
Sharaba.
yashribu.
Is it Yashribi? Yashrubu. Sharaba Yashribu. I think it's Sharaba Yash. Yeah, I guess this is one of the exceptions. In my mind, I would just learn it. There are so many exceptions over here that I'd just say you remember this, like Mashrabahum. So this would just be Mash. Yeah, I guess this would be an exception. Mashrabahum, their place of drinking, and that which they drink, that would be Ismul Maf'ul. So what would that be? If I were to ask you the thing that they drink, that would be
Mushrab.
Mashroob.
Mushrabun.
No,
Oh,
the
Mushrab.
thing that they drink would be Ismul Maf'ul. So Maf'ul,
Mashrubun.
Mashroob, yeah, Mashroobun. But this is Ismul Zarf. Everybody knew their place of drinking. Okay. Ilallahi, towards Allah. Marji'ukum. So obviously the Ismul
Yes,
Zarf is
return.
Marji'ukum. What's the verb from which this is coming?
Raja.
Raja'a, which means to return. Yarji'u. Yarji.
So place
Yarji'u.
So how would
of your return.
how would you convert this into a zarf? The ya would be replaced by
Marji'un.
marji. So what does this mean?
Meme Fatah.
Yeah, meme fatah. But what does the word
Place-
marji'u
A
mean?
place of return.
Place of
return.
Okay, so to Allah is the
Place of return.
place of return.
Your place of return.
Yeah, is your. To Allah is. This is like second person. So to Allah is your place of return. وَقْعُدُوا لَهُمْ كُلُّ مَرْصَدٍ. So, what does this mean?
A place.
So what does waq'udu? This is a command.
Waiting place of.
So if you go back, we just saw this, right?
Sit.
So what
Place
is
of waiting.
yeah, waq'udu is the waqada. Did I just rasada is to wait. So rasada is to wait. What does
Yeah, qada is to sit.
kullu marsadatin would
Marsadin
be-
is a place of waiting.
Place of waiting. Okay. Then next is La Abraha. So we will not stop or we will not see. La Abrahu, we will not cease. Hatta until Ablugha Majma'a. So Ablugha is I reach. What does Majma'a mean? Jama'a means to sort of to get together, to gather. So Majma'a al-Bahraini. So what does the al-Bahraini is the
Place
two
of
waters.
gathering.
Yeah, the place of gathering of what? Al-Bahraini, the gathering of the two waters or the two rivers.
Place where the two rivers meet, I think.
Exactly. Like for geography people, that's called the confluence of the rivers. So when you have two rivers meeting, so that's called the confluence. In Arabic it would be Majma al-Bahraini, so the place where the okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, yeah, I think I temporarily, my internet is a little weak. Okay. So qalat namlatu. So qalat, she said, namlatu is the ant. Ya ayyuhan namalu. So, oh ants. What is this? Udkhulu or idkhulu? Actually, the way it's read is an namaludkhulu, but this would have been udkhulu, enter. What is this? Masakinakum.
Your houses.
Yeah, your houses or your places of stay. So sakana is to sort of stay. Masakina, this is maskan would be stay, and then what would be the plural? Masakin. So that is the places of stay. Man ba'athana, who raised us? Min, from, marqadina. So raqada, ruqud, that is sleeping or lying down. So marqadina is our place of sleep. So who raised us from our place of sleep? So all these are Ismul Zarf. Notice that there is a standard way of creating them, and obviously even though you did not know these words before, but if you know the meaning of the verb, and then you can see, okay, this is an Ismul Zarf, then you can come up with the meaning of the Ismul Zarf also. All right, for homework, I'd like you to do that on your own and write all the translations. Okay, now we look at Zarf. Kutiba is prescribed or written for you. Alaikum, on you. As-siyamu is fasting. Kama, like. Kutiba was prescribed. Alal lazina, those min from qablikum. So this is the zarf. It is in jar because of the min. So fairly simple. So fasting is prescribed on you the way it was prescribed on those qablikum, before you. So this is the zarf. Wala tuqatiluhum indal masjid al-harami, and do not kill them indal masjid al-harami, near the masjid. So notice this is in halat nasab, and this also takes the form mudaf, mudaf ilayh. So generally when you have a zarf, it shows up as the muzaf, and generally it would be in nasab form. So don't kill them near the al-masjidi, and then al-harami is the adjective which matches al-masjidi. Hatta, until, this is another zarf. Yuqatilukum fi, they kill you in it. So Is this la tuqatilu, is this a negative command or is this a negation?
Negative
Negation.
command.
It's a negative command. How do you know? Because the noon is dropped. Normally it would be tuqatiluna, but when the noon is dropped,
Yeah.
that means that this is a
Majzoom
majzoom, which means that this is a command.
command.
So don't kill them near the Masjid Haram, near the Masjid Al Haram, hatta until they kill you in it.
Arif sir,
Yeah,
these words Allah and fi, they're not considered as zarf.
they are not considered. They are harfe jar.
Okay, but in a sense, they also have the same property as zarf. In the sense,
Yeah,
they.
see in. Yeah, you're right. In a ila is two words, and fi is in. Yeah, you're right. I guess in the categorization, they are generally not considered zarf. Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe because they have this additional property that they're haruf jar.
Exactly, that's possible. So they, yeah, so that's their claim to fame. So fi, ila, and then there are like 14 or 15 more huruf, which are called harfe jar, and the zarf are generally categorized with ism. So they are not ismul zarf, but they are sort of like not like a normal ism. They have their own properties, like things like fi and ila. They don't change their state. So you don't have fi. You can't say that fi itself is it in jar or nasab. But with the zarf nouns, with the zarf words like qabli or qabla or some of the other zarf that we've studied, they will either be in jar or they would be in nasab. Whereas the harfe jar, they're mabni in the sense that they're always the same.
Okay, okay.
So la akalu min fawqihim wa min tahti arjulihim. So la definitely, akalu. So akala is they ate, min from fawqihim. So from, what does fawqihim mean?
Above
Above
them.
Above them. And why is there a kasra over here? Fawqi,
Min, because
because
of
of
min.
min. Wa
Min.
and min from tahti. Tahti means
Below.
below. Again kasra because of min. Arjulihim. Arjul is their feet. So
So
from
below their feet.
below their feet. Tahbisunahuma min ba'di salat. Okay, so here the jar is ba'di is after, min ba'di salati, so after there. So here this is the zarf, and again kasra because it's after min. La tarfa'u, so do not, again, so Dr. Ghani, is this a negation or a negative command?
It's a command.
Exactly, because the noon is missing, it's majzoom. So
Yeah.
do not raise. Aswatakum is your voice. Fawqa, over sautin nabi, so over the voice,
Sound of.
the sound of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is in nasab because there is no harfe jar. So fawqa sautin, so the over the voice of the Prophet. So this is a complex mudaf construction. Fawqa, so this is the mudaf ilayh, and then sautin nabi, this is the mudaf, and an nabi is the mudaf ilayh. So you will see all the rules of mudaf ilayh showing up over here. Yawma, this is the zarf. So the standard is that it has a fatha. Yawma la tamliku nafsul li nafsin shay'an. So no control. This la is a negation because you have standard rafa form here. La tamliku nafsun. This is the subject or the file. So on that day, no soul will have any control over any other soul shay'an at all. So several examples of zarf. All right, so that's it for regular segment.